I took the job at the funeral home because it was quiet work. That's what I told people anyway. Truth is, I needed something steady. My last job had fallen apart, and the funeral home, Hawthorne and Sons, was hiring for an overnight attendant. Light duties, they said. Security checks, occasional transfers, making sure everything stayed in order until the morning staff arrived. Most nights, nothing happens, Mr. Hawthorne told me during the interview. That's the point. He wasn't wrong. For the first few weeks, the job was exactly what I expected. Quiet halls, muted lighting, the faint smell of polish and flowers that never quite left your clothes. The building itself was older, with narrow corridors and heavy doors that seemed to hold onto sound. I got used to it. You have to, working somewhere like that. Death becomes less of a concept and more of a presence. Not frightening, just constant, like background noise you stop noticing. There were 3 viewing rooms, a preparation room in the back, and a small chapel area where services were held. Most nights, everything was empty except for the preparation room, where there might be 1 or 2 bodies awaiting service. They were always secured, always documented, always still. The first strange thing I noticed wasn't dramatic. It was the front door. Every night, part of my routine was locking it at exactly 10 p.m., checking the handle twice, and noting it in the logbook. One night, about a month in, I passed by the entrance around midnight and saw it slightly ajar, not wide open, just enough that the latch hadn't caught. I remember feeling annoyed more than anything. I figured I'd been distracted earlier and didn't close it properly. I shut it again, checked the lock, and moved on. But the next night, it happened again. Same door, same slight gap. This time, I was certain I'd locked it. I checked the hinges, the latch. Everything worked fine. Solid. I wrote it off as old hardware. That explanation lasted until the 3rd night. That time, when I approached the door, it was already moving, slowly, not swinging open wide, just easing outward, inch by inch, like someone on the other side was pushing it gently. I stopped halfway down the hall, watched it, waited for it to stop. It didn't. It opened just enough to reveal the dark outside, then settled. I walked up and pulled it shut harder than necessary, my reflection staring back at me in the glass. There was no one outside, no wind, nothing. After that, I started paying closer attention. Little things began to stand out. A chair in the chapel slightly out of place when I passed through on my rounds. A light flickering in the hallway that never flickered during the day. Doors that didn't quite stay where I left them. Individually, none of it meant much. Together, it started to feel deliberate, like something was adjusting things. Not violently, not aggressively, just moving them. Testing. One night, about 6 weeks in, we received a late arrival. A man in his 50s, unexpected death at home. No trauma, no complications, routine, like most cases. I assisted with intake, then placed him in the preparation room under a sheet. The embalming wouldn't be done until morning. Everything was as it should be. By 1 a.m., I was alone. The building had that deep, settled quiet that only comes after midnight. Even the outside world seemed distant, like it had pulled away from the building entirely. I was in the office when I heard the first sound, a soft thud, not loud, but distinct. It came from the preparation room. I waited, listened. Nothing followed. I told myself it was something settling, a tray maybe. Old buildings shift. Still, I got up. Part of the job. The hallway light seemed dimmer than usual as I walked toward the back. The preparation room door was closed, just as I'd left it. I opened it. Everything looked normal. The stainless steel table, the cabinets, the overhead light humming faintly. The body lay where it should, covered. I stepped inside, scanning the room. That's when I noticed the sheet. It had shifted, not fallen off, not disturbed in a messy way. Just moved, pulled slightly to one side, enough to expose one hand. I frowned. I was certain I'd covered him fully. Still, I told myself I'd rushed earlier. Easy mistake. I adjusted the sheet, making sure it was secure this time, and turned to leave. The second I reached the door, something behind me clicked. A cabinet. I turned back. One of the metal cabinet doors was slowly swinging open. I watched it move. Slow, smooth, controlled, no sudden jerk, no slam, just opening. I walked over and closed it, checked the latch. It was fine. As I stepped back, another sound came from behind me, a faint scraping. I turned. The gurney against the far wall had shifted, just a few inches. Its wheels hadn't locked properly, I thought. That had to be it. I pushed it back into place, making sure it wouldn't move again. The room felt colder now. Not freezing, just uncomfortable, like the air didn't belong. I left. Back in the hallway, I realized my hands were shaking slightly. I told myself it was nerves, new job, late hour, nothing more. Around 2:30, I started my next round. The front door was closed, locked. Good. The chapel was empty, chairs lined neatly. Also good. But as I turned to leave, I noticed something on the stage, the podium. It had been centered earlier. Now it was off to the side. Not dramatically, just enough to be wrong. I walked up and moved it back. The second I let go, one of the chairs behind me scraped across the floor, loud, sharp. I turned quickly. A single chair sat pulled out from the row, no one there. I stared at it for a long moment. Then, slowly, I pushed it back into place. I didn't stay in that room any longer than I had to. By the time I reached the hallway, my chest felt tight, like the building had gotten smaller, like the walls had moved in without me noticing. I went back to the office and sat down, trying to focus on anything normal. Paperwork, logs, routine. Then I heard it. Footsteps, soft, measured, coming from the hallway. I froze, listened. Step, pause, step, pause. Not random, intentional, moving toward the preparation room. I stood up, my chair scraping loudly against the floor. The footsteps stopped immediately. Silence. I waited. Nothing. After a minute, I stepped into the hallway. Empty, but the preparation room door, at the far end, was open. I hadn't left it that way. I walked toward it slowly. Each step felt heavier than the last. The overhead lights flickered once, then steadied. When I reached the doorway, I didn't go in right away. I just stood there, looking. The room looked the same, at first. Then I saw it, the body on the table. The sheet had been pulled down again, lower this time, exposing the upper chest. Both hands now rested on top, folded. I knew I hadn't placed them like that. I hadn't touched them after covering him. I stepped inside. The air felt thick, hard to breathe. I reached for the sheet, intending to cover him again. And something moved behind me, fast, a blur at the edge of my vision. I turned sharply. Nothing. But the cabinet door from earlier was open again, wider this time. Then, before I could react, slam. It shut with enough force to echo through the room. I flinched. My heart was racing now, loud enough I could hear it in my ears. I backed toward the door. As I did, the gurney across the room rolled, not drifting, not settling, rolling, straight toward me. It stopped a few feet away. I didn't touch it. I didn't move. The room was completely silent again. Then, slowly, the overhead light began to flicker. Each flicker stretched longer than the last. Between flashes, the room plunged into brief darkness. In one of those moments, just a fraction of a second, I had the overwhelming sensation that something was standing directly in front of me, close enough that I instinctively leaned back. The light came on again. Nothing there, but the feeling didn't leave. It stayed, pressing in. I could feel it near my face, my chest, like standing too close to someone you can't see. I didn't wait for anything else. I stepped backward into the hallway, never turning my back on the room. The second I crossed the threshold, the door behind me moved. Slowly. Closing. I watched it shut on its own until the latch clicked. I stood there for a long time, not moving, not thinking, just listening to the silence. Nothing else happened that night. By morning, everything was back in place. The body covered properly. The gurney where it should be. No signs anything had been disturbed. I told Mr. Hawthorne I wasn't comfortable working nights anymore. He didn't ask many questions, just nodded. "Some people aren't suited for the quiet," he said. Maybe that's true. Or maybe the quiet isn't empty. I left that job 2 weeks later. Found something else, brighter, busier. But every now and then, when I'm alone in a quiet room, I remember that night. The way things moved without being touched. The way the air felt crowded. And the worst part, not the doors, not the footsteps, not even the things sliding across the floor. It was that feeling, right at the end, like something had stepped close enough to be seen, if there had been anything there to see.